Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Oksana, and this is Education for Eurasia and Central Asia. I would just like to remind you that our service center are fully virtual, and we provide group advising and also individual advising. So if you are interested in any of these opportunities, please scan the QR code on the screen and join our events. Today, we are going to talk about how to find the right university for you. And our guest, Shawn from St. John University, will show you how to cut through the noise and identify schools that match your academic interest, budget, location preferences, and personal goals. So you will learn what factors matter beyond ranking and how to build a balanced application list and which free tools or like maybe some kind of advice you might use for your research. Thank you for joining, Shawn, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Oksana. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Hello, everybody. My name is Shawn Slon. I'm here with St. John's University. We're a New York City-based private institution. And I'm here to share with you, as Oksana said, how to choose, how to pick the best fit institution for you. This process can feel overwhelming. Let's say you've already decided that studying in the United States of America might be a great option for you. Well, now it's time to narrow down the nearly 4,000 different schools you could be applying to. So that's certainly the first step. And again, my name is Shawn Slon. I'm a recruitment manager and admission officer with St. John's University. My email is there. Feel free to contact me at any time. Okay, so finding the right college or university for you. I think it's important to note right off the beginning that the terms college and university are typically used interchangeably in the United States. Okay, and I realize that's quite different from most of the rest of the world. Anyway, important considerations. So we want to be thinking about, are we interested in a public or private institution? A 2-year or a 4-year degree? And we'll talk more about any of this. We'll hold time for questions at the end as well. Obviously, academic offerings, academic programs being offered at the institution should be one of your top priorities when picking where you'd like to study. Not just the ranking of the school or the ranking of the program, while those things can be important. The subject material, what do you want to study? What do you want to be involved in your classes each day is of the utmost importance. But many other things are important too. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of sort of stopping here at academic programs and ranking. We need to think about the cost of attendance at each institution, but not the price that the institutions are advertising, rather the cost after considering all scholarships and any financial aid that's available. The size of the institution is important as well. Are you used to being in a very large school or a smaller school? What do you prefer? The location, including the distance from home. So while I realize regardless of where you were to study in the United States, if you do go this route, regardless, it'll be far from home. But the United States is a very big place, consisting of multiple time zones, and the East Coast is typically much closer than the West Coast, for example. Then extracurricular life, things like activities, clubs, athletics, and fraternities and sororities. This is a big part, not the fraternities and sororities part necessarily, but the extracurricular life, things outside of class, activities and things you can get involved in, is really a big part of the university experience in the United States. So you absolutely want to be looking at that as well. You want to be considering also support services at the university. What's being offered in terms of counseling, career services, student advising, tutoring, and other things like that. And then lots of other factors, including study abroad opportunities. In other words, does the university that you're considering in the United States have campuses or programs that allow you to maybe study in a different country for part of your degree? Are internships available, and so on? And I think a nice way of thinking about this is to group it into these 5 main categories, with majors or, academics. Major is the term for the academic area that you will be focusing in at university. You'll be taking the majority of your classes in your major. And so what I mean by majors is academics. So that should be your primary concern. You are going to study. But then all of these other things are sometimes equally important, but certainly very important. And I think probably cost is second. This is different for everybody, but cost is obviously quite important. We all understand that most institutions in the United States are quite expensive. So where can you find an opportunity where you can bring that cost down to something that is reasonable for you and your family to pursue without putting yourselves in financial difficult situation? Geography, I think in some way is next for me, because, and people think of this the least, I think, and this is the biggest mistake in my opinion. Are you a city person or a country person? Do you like warm weather or cold weather? And like I said before, while you'll be far from home, how far from home, how many hours of time difference? These things make a huge difference in your level of happiness and success at the university. So picking a university with all of these things in mind will lead to a much happier and more successful experience at the university. The other 2 topics are also very important, and I've already mentioned them on the last slide as well, so I'm going to move on. So before we get into, how to narrow down and really think about the best school for you, real quick, let's just talk about some of the benefits of studying in the United States. So first of all, a high quality of education. Just across the board, many of the top universities globally are located in the United States. And it's just a leading destination for international students looking for a top-level education at the university level, both in our undergraduate or bachelor programs, but also in our graduate level or master's and PhD programs. Certainly the best student life experience, at least that I'm familiar with. I'm personally based in Europe, and I know that the universities in Europe really do not have this, usually at all. Sometimes very limited, but in the United States, like I said before, it's a big part of the university experience: clubs, sports, activities, doing other things outside of just class work. Developing your English language skills is another obvious plus. There is something called OPT, optional practical training, which allows you to work in the United States based on your student visa for up to 1 year after you graduate your program. And that can be extended for an additional 2 years if your program is in a STEM field. So the different types of undergraduate degrees, so for the majority of you, I believe, if not all, are high school students. I might be wrong about that, but assuming that you're a high school student, you are looking at undergraduate degrees to apply for these. So there are different types. The main type of undergraduate degree, and what most of you will be applying for, is called a bachelor's degree. That's a 4-year degree. There's also something called an associate's degree. That's a 2-year degree. This is available at community colleges. It tends to be much less expensive as well. And then you can transfer those 2 years of your associate's degree into a bachelor's degree and complete another 2 years at a 4-year degree granting school. Many 4-year degree granting bachelor's schools also offer some associate's programs as well. And then, there are a lot of typically study abroad opportunities, internships, work placement. So these are all other advantages of studying in the United States: the ability to travel, study in other places, and get your foot in the door when it comes to employment. That is a big part of the university experience. Just for lack of time, I'm going to keep moving through this, but you want to know what your options are. As I said, there's nearly or approximately 4,000 different colleges and universities in the United States. So you have to understand what your options are and what are your priorities. So what are your academic and career goals? What is your budget? And what preferences do you have outside of academics and budget? Like I said, even things as simple or as small, let's say, as the weather, but also sports, clubs, activities. So yeah, large or small student population. This is mostly a repeat of that first slide, so I'm going to move on. So, okay, here's some advice to you when applying to colleges. You want to start by making a list of colleges that you plan on applying to for admission based on your research. So you're doing a lot of research based on the things that I've been talking about so far. And you're putting together a nice list of pros and cons of, say, 20 of the universities that seem to fit into your basket. I would say that's a good place to start. You start with about 20 that seem to fit for you. I'm making up that number. You can go with whatever works for you. And then narrow it down to about 10. And approximately, there's no rules on how many universities to apply for. But then you want to be applying for these 10, and roughly, more or less. And you, again, I think a great way to do that is just start by making a list of schools that fit for you based on your priorities, and then write down the pros and the cons of each school on that list and try to narrow it down further to about 8 to 10 or 8 to 12. Make sure you know all the deadlines for each institution, and there are different deadlines. Early decision is a binding agreement, and you can only apply early decision to one institution. So be very careful about early decision. This is only for your dream school, because you're literally signing an agreement saying, if I'm admitted, I will attend. That's a binding agreement. And so most of the time, I advise students not to apply early decision. But if you're set on one place, that's when you apply early decision. Early action is a great idea. Early action moves your application to the top of the pile. You get a quicker response and more attention when you apply. And regular decision or rolling admission, which is similar, is also quite fine. You're not penalized for applying regular decision at all. And again, you should just know when these deadlines are. You do not want to miss a deadline for a school that is fitting to you. Some schools offer rolling admission. Rolling admission means there really is no deadline. Know when transcripts, standardized test scores, and essays are due if they're required. So you have to figure out what each institution is asking of you to complete their application. Not all applications are the same. And this is really important. And I think this fourth point here about research any scholarships that you may be eligible for and know how to apply for them. You should be doing that before you're choosing which schools to apply to. Unless money is just absolutely not a concern, but assuming it is, which it is for 99% of students around the world and applicants, you want to research scholarship opportunities at the schools as part of your decision process as where you're even going to apply to. Again, don't stop at the advertised tuition. Figure out what kind of scholarships is that university really offering. Are they offering the scholarships automatic with admission decisions, or do you need to apply separately? Or are both kinds of scholarships available? Often, both will be available. A university will automatically consider you for scholarships based on your application, but you'll also be able to apply for additional scholarships with separate applications. So do that research first before applying. And then if you can't find any of that information, you can always find a contact like myself, an international admission counselor at a university who you can email and you can ask these questions. You can ask what kind of scholarships are available. So don't be shy is another big tip for you all. Reach out to people. And I think that's coming up on a slide soon, so I'll wait for that. Remember, the more research you do, the more manageable and enjoyable the process will be. It is an overwhelming process. You need to give yourself plenty of time, but the more research you're doing, the more you're figuring out which schools will actually be the right fit for you, the less complicated it becomes and the less stressful it becomes. So yeah, as I said, don't be shy. Ask questions. And this is a bad slide. Ask the right questions. Yeah, that's key. There's no wrong questions, though. Actually, I want to edit this slide after this presentation. You want to just ask questions and not be shy. And who are you asking these questions from? Current students. Try to reach out to current students at the institutions. Most universities' websites have a way to chat live with current students. Usually you can even pick where they're from. Like at St. John's on our website, you can use this chat system at the bottom of our website to chat with me or some of our current students, and you can pick, you can see where the student came from, so you can chat with international students. Do you have questions about student life and activities and happiness on campus and things like that? Don't ask me, ask a student. They're the ones who know the best, right? Then, do you want to know more information about the major you're applying to, the academic program? You can ask me. I can tell you a lot about it. But even better if you ask the professors of that program, and their contact information is also available on the website. You can also reach out to alumni. There are plenty of alumni networks that you can access. But I would say focus on mainly current students and professors. And then not on this slide, but also people like myself. So admission counselors, international admission teams or international admission counselors. Again, don't be shy. Reach out to us, ask questions. You don't bother us. We like it. We appreciate it. It shows that you're interested in the institution. Here's a suggested timeline. This is just a suggestion. This is not required. I think I'm not going to go through this bit by bit. I'll provide a copy of this later to be shared with you, so you can look at everything in more detail later. I think the important thing to note here is that most application deadlines are around November, December, January of your final year of high school. So that's about 9 months or so, 10 months before you would be studying in the United States. You're completing, so see where it says 10 months before studying in the US, you're completing and submitting all college applications. So well in advance, while you're still in high school. If you're taking a gap after high school, that's fine too. But well in advance of when you intend to start at the institution. You want to make sure you're giving yourself enough time to complete the application if there's any errors. Deal with the visa process as well. So it's time consuming, and you don't want to be stressing these things at the last minute. Okay, when you're starting the search, be flexible and open. Give yourself plenty of time. Always defer to the university websites at first. There's a lot of good information on there, and then there's a lot of good contacts on there too, as I've been saying. Stay organized and take notes. I mean, I think this goes sort of without saying, but many people forget to do this. And if you take organized notes about the different institutions you're considering, it's going to be so much easier to decide which ones you want to apply to or which ones you'd want to actually go to eventually. Ask questions, as I said, research and revise. So keep going through it, keep thinking about it. Again, like I sort of said before, what are your priorities? What do you value? Who do you want to be? What do you want to do for a living? How does the university or, just more generally studying in the United States help you reach those goals? And these goals, your priorities are not just about your professional, lifelong goals, but as I've been saying throughout this presentation, about many other things. So your priorities are also the setting. Do you like an urban setting with, big skyscrapers and buildings, or do you want a more country feel? academics are obviously, I think, a priority for everybody. So make sure that the program that you're applying to aligns with your academic goals. And they're well described on the websites. And again, you can arrange calls with a faculty member. Faculty is another way to talk about our professors. So a professor, you can talk to them, make sure the academics fit. Now, that said, you're young. Things change, and it's quite normal, or actually very common in the United States of America, to change major, to change your academic projection or focus area, your major, during your four-year bachelor's degree. So some large percentage of students change major at some point. That's always possible. But you want to go into this thinking about, what do I want to study, and does this university offer that? And what do they offer in that academic area that's better or different from similar programs at other institutions? And the second half of this presentation, I'm going to use St. John's University as an example. So I'll give you some examples of, why St. John's would stand out for some of our academic programs over some other institutions, for example, or why our location might be great for some of the people on this call, but might be horrible for others, and you really want to balance all these things. And then the other ones, as I've said many times, finances, student life, accreditation as well, though you don't really need to worry about that too much. But you do want to make sure that programs are accredited. In the United States of America, there is no central governing body of universities. And so there are what are called accreditation agencies that oversee and make programs official. So, again, setting, I think, is extremely one of the most important things that people forget about. Let's say you're from a big city in your home country, and you get into some great school, I don't know, University of Kansas. I'm just picking them randomly, but partially because of their location. Because they have the best academic program you ever heard of with the thing you want to study, and you're so happy you got in, and they gave you a nice scholarship, and then you get there and you realize, oh, Kansas is in the middle of a bunch of cornfields in the middle of the country with not many major cities anywhere close by. I mean, there's Kansas City. You get what I'm saying. You want to find yourself literally in a setting that you're going to be happy in and feel comfortable. And that works the other way too. I mean, you get to New York City and you realize, oh my God, I'm not a city person. That's not good for you either. And then also, the student population, how many students are living on campus, how many students are enrolled, what kind of housing options are available at the university. Okay, so with that, as I said, I'm going to spend the second half of this time going over St. John's University. We're going to use New York City and St. John's University just as one example of an institution, a university in the United States of America. And I want you to start thinking while I'm doing this. Think about the sort of 5 or 6 different categories that I've been talking about in terms of whether or not a school is a good fit for you. And let's use St. John's as the example. And I want you thinking, for all these reasons, for cost, for location, for academics, activities, and more, is St. John's a good fit for me or not? We're not going to be a perfect fit for everybody, but for some of you, we are going to be the perfect fit. So I think the best way to introduce St. John's University is first to introduce New York City. So I don't know, I imagine some people on this call have probably been to New York City before, but let me just briefly introduce you to New York City. Then we'll get into St. John's University, and I'll be pretty quick and leave plenty of time for your questions. So let's get to know New York City. This is where I'm from. I love New York City. It's probably my favorite place in the world, though I have been living in Rome, Italy for the last 15 years, and Rome is quickly competing with New York for me. But New York City is home to over 8 million people who are divided into 5 boroughs. A borough is a weird word that we use in New York City to talk about a big part of the city. Borough just means big part of city. It's much bigger than a neighborhood. And I think this is a nice way to understand it. This is the New York City subway map. We call our metro system our subway. So when I'm talking about the subway, I'm talking about our public transportation system, or our metro, our underground tube. But you can see on the subway map, the New York City map, and you see the 5 boroughs. It's not so easy to see, but on the west or left side, we have Manhattan. That's what you're picturing. That's the New York City everybody's picturing, just Manhattan, 1 borough. That's the center of New York City. It's where the vast majority of all the huge skyscrapers are. And that's where most tourists would come to New York. In Manhattan, you see Times Square, the Empire State Building, the Freedom Towers, or what used to be the World Trade Center, and just really exciting, happening center part of New York City. But we also have the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island that make up the whole of New York City. These are all parts of New York City. St. John's University is mainly located at the big St. John's University logo, right under the word Queens, in Queens, New York. We're in one of the outer boroughs. Feels more like a sort of suburban neighborhood with houses and yards. I'll show you. And then we've got a second smaller campus right in the center in Manhattan. That is for business students only, and there's no dormitory in Manhattan. The vast majority of our students are at our campus in Queens, New York, and then we also have small study abroad campuses in Rome, Paris, and Limerick. Believe it or not, this is in New York City. I love that. I mean, I love this photo. I love our campus. We have certainly one of, if not the largest college campuses in New York City. I mean, again, this is in New York City. Does that look like it could possibly be in New York City? Well, clearly, again, we're not in Manhattan. We're in Queens, again, part of New York, but a much more residential part of the city. That you see this whole rectangular or square shape is our campus, but you see around it, you see little houses with driveways and yards, no skyscrapers, no huge buildings. This was originally, or many, many years ago, it was a golf course, and it still sort of feels like it. It's green, it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's beautiful. Students at St. John's University get the best of both worlds when it comes to location. You get this huge, typical sort of American college campus that you might find way outside of the major cities, and you get New York City at the same time. These nice modern looking buildings in the corner of the campus are our dormitories, or some of our dormitories, and then you see all the sports fields. Most of the other buildings are our classrooms, and it's just a wonderful place. New York City is known for our arts, everything from fine arts to music and theater, Broadway shows, obviously, but much, much more than that. It's really exciting if you're into the arts. We're also known for our food and for the diversity of our food, for food from all over the world. New York City is essentially, our identity is home to the world. That's really what New York is in a nutshell. And the food is sort of a good example of that. And students who are feeling a little homesick when they first, travel away from their family and come to New York City tend to find some comfort in the fact that probably anybody you can find food from your home country in New York City. We're also known for being the city of opportunity, and that's a big part of St. John's as well. Our business programs are really strong. We provide internships and job placements with top corporations, Wall Street firms, and mainly because of Wall Street and big corporations, New York City is known as being a city of opportunity. And this is the most important part when it comes to New York City and to St. John's University. We're known for our diversity. Like I said, with the food, we are home to the world. People from all over the world, languages from all over the world. Within a small radius of our campus in Queens, New York City, there's over 100 languages officially spoken. At St. John's, we have students from 120 different countries. Many of our American students' parents are from different countries because many of our American students are from New York. And again, New Yorkers tend to be really from all over the world. So we pride ourselves in our diversity. We pride ourselves, New Yorkers in general, but specifically St. John's. We pride ourselves on our international students. We want you to apply. We want you to come join us and add to our cultural diversity, which is already really strong. So we can't wait to say welcome to New York City. And just very briefly, in like 5 to 8 minutes at the most, I'm going to tell you a bit more details about St. John's University. I hope I'm keeping your attention. You know, this is not to bore you. I'm a teacher on the side. I really pride myself in engaging students. So I hope you're engaged here. I hope you're finding this interesting, and I hope you'll come up with some good questions for me. But this is St. John's University. Welcome to our beautiful grass lawns in New York City. Interesting. St. John's University is a Vincenzian Catholic private institution that is metropolitan and global. So we're founded as a Catholic Vincenzian institution, which means that we're founded on helping the less fortunate or doing volunteer work and community service. And that still holds true today. Less than half of our student body is Catholic. It really has nothing to do with applying to St. John's University. You absolutely do not have to be Catholic. We're extremely diverse in terms of religious background. In fact, for example, we have Muslim prayer rooms on campus. We offer halal food in our cafeteria. But we also have, a Catholic chapel on campus. And for students who are of Catholic background, we still hold the Catholic values that we were founded on. And again, that really is just all about cultural diversity and also supporting and helping out people in need. So there's a lot of opportunities to do volunteer work. None of that is mandatory, but it's optional opportunities. There's some additional scholarships around some of those too. So if you're interested in doing volunteer work, you can apply for some of our additional scholarships to get into some of these programs that do volunteer work on a regular basis. Our identity is really metropolitan first and foremost. We're based in New York City, one of the best cities in the world, and global because we've got beautiful campuses in Rome, Italy, Paris, France. We've got this collaboration program in Limerick, Ireland, and then we've got other programs all around the world. Asia, South America, there's potential for exchange programs, endless opportunities to travel. St. John's by the numbers, I'm just going to point out a few of these. So first, approximately 20,000 students, which is considered medium size in the United States. Quite large, though. We're just not nearly as large as some of those huge state schools like, I don't know, University of Michigan or Texas might be double that. But still very large. So 20,000 students. This number has increased. So the 45 doesn't matter. That's talking about how many US states are represented in our student body. I think I'm going to remove that. But how many countries are represented in our student body, that's interesting. And that number's gone up. It's 119 right now. We have students from all over the world. Student to faculty ratio means for every 16 students, we have one professor. So that means despite having like 20,000 students, we have small class sizes. We offer courses are typically 20 to 25 students in a classroom. If you're into sports, so are we. We're known as New York's team. We have 17 Division I NCAA athletic teams. We're mostly known for our basketball team. Our basketball team is ranked nationally each year, plays their home games inside Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. That's the home stadium of the New York Knicks, the professional basketball team. It's also our home stadium. It's really exciting and fun. We also have high-level tennis, football, and when I say football, I mean football in the international sense, not American football. I said tennis, track and field, volleyball, and a few others. Academically, we are mainly known for our College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences and those health science programs, and our Peter J. Tobin College of Business. So our highest ranked and most known programs, most competitive, are things like nursing, physician's assistant, biomedical science, biology, biochemistry. Those all fall into health sciences. We've got a great pharmacy program as well. And then all our business programs as well. Our top ranked program and top ranked business program, but also top ranked all around is our risk management and insurance program in our College of Business, but our finance programs also rank quite high. International management is another great business program, economics as well. We've got a lot of really interesting niche programs too. I mean, there's plenty of other great programs too. We are known as a liberal arts school. We've got, theology, philosophy, psychology. We have an amazing sports management program in our College of Professional Studies. School of Education is for students who want to become teachers. We've got a whole bachelor's degree for gamers where you're developing video games. That's literally your bachelor's degree is game design. There's a lot of great environmental sustainability bachelor's programs as well. Government and politics, international relations type programs. So a lot to choose from. That's why we say we major in options. But again, probably the strongest areas are business and health sciences. I forgot to mention, we've got excellent computing programs too. So wonderful computer science. After business and health sciences, certainly the most popular, computer science, IT, and a few others. There's a really interesting program called television and film. I'm forgetting the exact name. So as I said before, we work very hard to employ our students. So we both with internships while you're studying, but also job placement after studies. These are just some of the companies we work with on a daily basis to place our students. We're really good at this. And I think it's a combination of, we're in New York City. We have a huge living alumni network of 200,000. And we've been around for over 150 years, which for the United States is a really ancient university. So we've been around forever, we're large, and we're in New York City, which means we've got all the connections that you need in the business world, in the sports world, the entertainment world, pharmacy, and much more, pharmaceutical. The numbers across the top are saying, essentially, the one in the middle is saying almost every single student after graduating would recommend St. John's. So nearly 98% of graduates recommend us. And the other two numbers are talking about the percentage of students who are employed shortly after graduating. So roughly 90% of students are employed within their desired field and within 6 months of graduation. We are New York's team. As I said, here's some shots of Madison Square Garden. Again, known as the world's most famous arena, home of the New York Knicks, home of St. John's basketball team. It's really exciting. Okay, here I've listed all of our Division I NCAA teams. So these are our high-level sports teams with the women's teams first and then the men's teams. But we also have club and intramural sports. These are sports at a lower level so that everybody can participate in sport. As I said, we have programs all over the world. And so before I was presenting this, I was saying, while I'm talking about St. John's, in your mind, you're thinking about, is this a good fit for me or not? And again, I don't expect St. John's to be a perfect fit for everybody. We're a great fit for some and not for others. We've got lots of support services for students at no extra charge. There's, free advisement and tutoring and counseling and everything you would need. Just a shot of what it's like to live on campus, the dormitories behind the students. Regardless of if you actually play for any of our sports teams, whether it's one of our top level Division I teams or the club or intramural teams, you can always just pick up a basketball or pick up a football, and play in one of our fields. We've got free courts and fields all over campus where students can just play. So here you see, students just casually eating lunch, relaxing, some sort of little fair going on behind them on the path. And then these other guys just casually playing basketball. It's a really nice setting. Again, we have dormitories on campus. There's many different dormitory styles with big dining halls. It's a very safe campus. We were recently ranked one of the safest in the entire United States, not just New York City, but 24/7 security, private campus. I'm going to skip over a couple things just because I don't want to bore you and I want to leave time for questions. The application is quite simplified. We actually do offer rolling admission, so we don't have any hard deadlines. So with a couple exceptions. We do have early action. So if you want to apply early action, you have to apply by December 1st of the year before you attend on starting. You typically start in September. Students can also apply to begin in January, the spring semester, but most students apply to begin in what's called the fall semester or September. And so if you're applying early action, you want to do that by December 1st. Otherwise, you can apply anytime. You could literally apply today for this fall. Our application's still open. 2 of our programs that you see here do have strict deadlines of February 1st. Over the last few years, we've simplified the application a bit, so we no longer require the SAT exam. We're SAT optional. That's a standardized admission exam for most universities in the United States. Several universities do no longer require it, like us. As an international student, if you do not submit the SAT, we do need proof of English language proficiency, and we'll accept any of the ones listed here. Also just begun accepting the Cambridge English exam as well. If you do submit the SAT or ACT, then we do not need the English exam. We'll just use the SAT for that. We need transcripts or report cards, your documents with your grades from high school for 4 years leading up to your graduation. So regardless of the length of your high school in your home country, if it's only 2 or 3 years, we still need 4 years. And that's the major mistake that most international applicants make when they start applying. It's not a big mistake. We can always correct it. Actually, I think that's important. Once you submit an application and start submitting documents, and it seems like you've submitted your application, you can still submit other documents. It doesn't mean your application's closed. So you can always submit more after the fact. So if you made a mistake and you only submitted 2 or 3 years because your high school is only 2 or 3 years, you can absolutely submit the missing year later, even after you've submitted your application. But anyway, we need 4 years. We need it in the original language and an official English translation. And that's basically it. While the things that are listed as optional, the essay and letters of recommendation are highly recommended. You should absolutely submit those. They're no longer mandatory at St. John's, but I really think it's much better to include them. Whereas the SAT is perfectly fine to not submit. So don't stop at our tuition, because as I was saying in the beginning of this presentation, scholarships and other things bring costs down significantly. But if you look at this, our advertised overall annual cost is approximately $80,000 a year if you think about everything. So tuition, that include room and board is included here as the other 21,000. That includes meals, so that's your housing and all your meals, and then mandatory health insurance as well. So again, this comes out to approximately $80,000 per year, but not a single international student pays anywhere close to that. And I can guarantee that because I've been offering them scholarships for the last 5 years. So if you're admitted to St. John's University, you will automatically be offered our merit-based scholarship. Now, it's not always 36,000, but it's usually at least 25 or 28,000. So about half the tuition cost, so the annual tuition of 55,000, at least about half or more, up to about 2/3 of that will be reduced automatically with your acceptance offer. Again, every accepted international student's getting significant scholarship ranging from about 25 to 36,000. And then there's other scholarships that you can apply for separately. I'm happy to help anybody with any of those if you have specific questions about them. Thank you all so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure talking to you all, and I'd like to open it up for Q&A, questions and answers. Feel free to scan this QR code and register that you attended today's event. Registering shows early engagement with the university, and it actually looks good if you do decide to apply. So I encourage you to register, and thank you again all for being here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Shawn. It was a great presentation, just like amazing pictures from the university. Thank you for sharing this. And I'm sure that our students were also like amazed by these views in New York. We still have a couple of minutes for some final questions. So please, dear students, if you have anything to in your mind, it's right time to ask and write in the chat. And while you're writing, typing your questions, we already have some in the chat. So I will just start with the first one and also add it to the screen so you can see it also. And the first one is pretty general. What is the difference between early decision and early action?
Oh, Sonia, thanks. That's a great question. I think a lot of people are confused about this. They're very different. Early decision, you're only allowed to do with one institution, one university. You have to pick one. You have to sign something saying, if I'm admitted, I will enroll and attend. It's pretty binding. It's a huge commitment, and you should be very careful about early decision. Early action is way lighter. You can apply to every university early action if you want. There's no commitment. And all early action just sort of moves your application to the top of the pile. You get a response sooner, shows that you're really serious about it. Early action applicants tend to be good applicants, not always, but it looks good. It's not mandatory, but a good idea. Early decision, so I hear, we didn't really do this, can help your chances of admission very slightly. So I wouldn't count on it. But again, be very careful with the early decision.
Thank you so much. So I think you can also remember decision that you have to decide. Yeah, and this is something that really important. So be careful about that. Yeah, great. So the next question is, how can we check whether the university is in the list of this and has this accreditation? What would you?
That's a good question. Usually so different programs or sometimes different colleges within the university, and sometimes the specific programs will be accredited individually. So it's not like every St. John's program is accredited by the same accrediting agency. So usually on the university's website, on each program page, it'll say who it's accredited by. If not, I think your best bet in 2026 is to ask AI, and you'll probably get a pretty good answer. I'm sorry, I don't know better than that.
Yeah. That's great. You can also, I think, reach out to the university and ask.
Also,
hesitate here or have questions about that. Great.
Totally.
Yeah. Which university do you recommend in New York City?
Well, that's a great question because I'm from New York City and I'm also willing to be honest. I mean, first of all, I recommend St. John's. I love St. John's. I got my MBA, my Master's in Business Administration and Finance. I teach finance on the side. St. John's is a wonderful institution. I also went to New York University, NYU. That's probably the most popular university in New York City. it's very different from St. John's. The faculty, the professors were almost identical in my personal experience. But NYU, New York University, is located right in the center of Manhattan. It's a totally different experience. It doesn't feel like a college campus at all, but it's super central. And then Columbia University is the highest ranked university in New York City. It's top level Ivy League school, really great, very competitive to be admitted to, and very expensive. There's a lot of other good ones too. I mean, Pace University is good. Fordham University is great. Fordham's quite similar to St. John's. Come to St. John's instead of Fordham. But no, they're really good too. The new school is interesting and good. There's the School of Visual Arts. There's other specialized art schools. So there's a lot of good options in New York. Depends what you're interested in.
Thank you so much. And I would also recommend you, first of all, to pay attention on your interest, like what you're interested in, because sometimes you like the university, but the program that you're looking for, you might not be there. Yeah, like this.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we have also the question about full ride scholarship, and does St. John University have this full ride scholarship that covers tuition, room, like board, and so on?
This is a good question because I know this question's on a lot of people's minds, and I get this email a lot. Unfortunately, we don't. I mean, in one exception, we do. And the only students at St. John's who are getting full ride would be some of our athletes. Being recruited by one of our coaches to be on one of our Division I level NCAA sports teams is a potential way to get full ride. Other than that, unfortunately not. In a best case scenario, if you're not an athlete, that full $80,000 a year can come down to about 20 or 30 in a year for if you include housing and everything in a best case scenario.
Thank you so much. How about work on campus? So it might also sometimes cover something.
These are all great questions. I'm so happy you guys have questions. I wish I hadn't talked so long, so I had more time to answer these. Yeah, you can work on campus. There are a lot of student worker jobs available. As an international student, you're only allowed to work for up to 20 hours a week. So not full-time, but part-time. But there are a lot of opportunities.
Great, thank you so much. So we have also a question from the students who registered and left their questions before the webinar. And one of them is pretty interesting also. So how many schools should a student realistically apply to without like spreading themselves too thin? And like what is like some realistic picture for this?
You know, I'm not really sure. I don't want to lie. I was sort of saying before, I think 10 is a good number to shoot for. Oksana, you might know just as good as I know on this question. What would you advise students?
Yeah, we also advise students do not apply to many schools because it's time taking, energy consuming, you know, like to prepare, even though like you apply through Common App, you still have to prepare like everything, you know, like statements says, yeah, like this. So it's like too time consuming and energy consuming, I think.
And Osana's making a good point. If you spread yourself too thin, you're just shooting out a general application, which we can tell. So when I'm reviewing your application, I can tell if you genuinely applied to St. John's and want to come here, or if you're just shooting this out to everybody. And it looks much better if you tailor it to the university you're applying to. So yeah, some students apply to over 20 schools. I think that's a bad idea. I think 10 is sort of the sweet spot, 5 to 10, 8 to 10, I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. This is actually what we are doing during our cohort programs. We teach students how to choose the right fit and like how to apply to different universities and make this right list. Because I also meet some students who choose only Ivy League university and then eventually they got rejected from all of them.
That's a common, sorry to interrupt you, but that's a common mistake. Don't do that. Don't apply only. Okay, the way that people in the United States talk about this is that you have your dream or your reach schools, and then your safety schools, and then probably some like perfect fits in between. In other words, apply for a few that are a little out of your reach that you most likely get rejected to, but make sure you also apply to a few that you'll definitely be admitted to, and then a few in between.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the question is like this: is it unrealistic or realistic to choose a university if I don't know my future profession yet?
That's a great question. I really like that. It's tough. That's why you should be thinking about all these other things too. It's not just about the academic major you're choosing. As I said, it's quite common to change major at your age. Who knows what they want to do with their full career? I mean, some of you probably do, but things change. It is tough. And I think I would use that just to say, again, it's really important to consider more than just the academic program to ensure you'll be happy at the institution.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And I think one more question about choosing the right fit. So how would you recommend to rank or what data to choose, like to make this list and evaluate colleges, like for a student, just like common student?
Can you repeat the question? How would I recommend putting what?
Yeah, so like what data should they specifically use to evaluate colleges? Like what should they look for, like at the websites?
I don't know. I mean, I think you can start with academic program offerings, right? So that's the first checkbox or the first data that you'd be compiling, and then you get the advertised tuition in your next column, and then you're compiling scholarship opportunities, and then I don't know, the things I was talking about in today's presentation, things like location. I think with modern technology, with AI, you can pretty easily sort of find all the data you'll need based on these categories that I've been talking about and put it together.
Yeah, that's a
They're
great.
all good questions.
Yeah, great suggestion. Thank you so much. And I think a couple of more, and we're done for today. So one more regarding early decision and action. Do the deadlines for early decision and early action differ from each other?
I'm sorry, I got distracted by something else. Early decision and early action. I think this is a similar question to before. Yeah, early decision and early action are totally different. Early decision is binding. Be super careful about early decision. Early action is something you could apply to every single university you apply for early action, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, great.
Oh, and the deadlines do differ. I didn't
Deadlines.
realize that was the question. The actual date for early decision is usually first, and then early action comes next, and then regular is after that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so the last for today, do you have any sports scholarship for tennis players?
I sort of love ending on this question because I'm a big tennis player myself. So that's my sport. And yeah, absolutely. And our tennis coach is the only one of our coaches who I know personally. But so every coach has an annual scholarship budget that's unique to their sport. So our tennis coach may have more or less money than some of the other coaches, but each coach has some scholarship budget, and each coach can decide how much of their annual budget they give to each of their players. So one player on the team might be full ride, another player on the team might have zero athletic scholarship and the full range in between. But I do know for a fact that there are full ride tennis players at St. John's. Not all of them, but some of them.
Great. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us today. I think it was amazing webinar and meeting with Shawn. Thank you, John, for joining us today. And thank you for covering so many questions important for our students. I hope that everyone enjoyed this meeting, and see you during our next webinars.
Thank you so much, Oksana and Education USA. It's always a super pleasure. I see in the chat you're asking about the coach contacts. Coach contacts are easily available online. Just Google it. You will find it. If you can't find it, email me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all again. I really appreciate it. Awesome questions. This was really a pleasure. Thank you again, Oksana, for
Thank
organizing.
you.